Have you ever paused to notice something strange? There are moments when you open your mouth to pray, to speak, to simply declare something, and it feels as if the air changes, as if something invisible around you stirred, as if a subtle current coursed through the environment, the exact instant your voice vibrated. It's not imagination, it's not coincidence, and it's definitely not an exaggeration of your tired mind. It's a sign, because your voice isn't just sound. Your voice is frequency, and the frequency that emanates from you at that exact moment carries a code that the absolute majority of humanity has never been taught to use. An ancient code, forgotten, deliberately erased from the memory of ordinary people. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal to you in the next few minutes will rearrange everything you believed about the power that exists within your throat, within your chest, within what you emit when you pronounce the name of God. There's a reason why, since the dawn of time, the ancients knew that sound creates. There's a reason why it's written that in the beginning was the Word, the spoken word. Sound vibrated with intention and direction. Before light, before matter, before anything your eyes can perceive, there existed a frequency, a primordial vibration that set the entire universe in motion. And that same frequency, chosen one, lies dormant within you, coiled like a taut string, waiting for the exact moment to be awakened. But why has no one told you this before? Why have you spent your entire life praying, asking, crying out, repeating words, and often feeling that it all hit the ceiling and returned empty, without echo, without response? The answer is uncomfortable, but you need to hear it to the end, because there's a game being played in layers that most people cannot perceive. A silent, ancient, sophisticated game. A game where your voice, your ability to emit the frequency of miracle, is precisely the most feared weapon on the board. And those playing against you know this better than you do yourself. That's why they did everything to make you believe your voice has no power whatsoever. That praying is just repeating memorized phrases. That sound is merely air striking your vocal cords. A lie. A lie carefully planted, generation after generation, to keep you disconnected from your own power and dependent on everything they want to sell you. Think with me for a moment. When you sing a song that touches your soul deeply, why do you feel shivers running up your spine? When you hear a deep, profound tone resonating, why does something within your body respond without your conscious decision? When an entire crowd chants the same song at the same time, why does the atmosphere seem charged, dense, almost palpable? Because sound isn't mere decoration of reality. Sound is the very structure of reality. Each frequency molds matter in a specific way. There are ancient experiments, known to very few, where fine grains spread over a metallic surface spontaneously organize into perfect geometric patterns, complex mandalas, when exposed to certain sound frequencies. The grains don't think, they don't decide, they don't choose. They simply obey the vibration that passes through them. And if sound organizes dead, lifeless, soulless matter in this way, imagine what your voice, imbued with faith and guided by the Spirit, is capable of organizing within your life, your home, your lineage. You are not an observer of this story. You are a central piece of it. And perhaps that is the exact reason why you always felt, deep down, that there was something greater within you waiting to emerge. That persistent feeling that your voice should do more than it does. That silent certainty that when you speak with true conviction, things around you move in a different way. It wasn't illusion. It wasn't vanity. It was memory. The memory of an ancestral frequency that has always been within you since before you were born, but which the world has worked tirelessly, day after day, to suppress, distort, and silence. And here enters the first layer of truth I need you to understand deeply. The silence they tried to impose on you was never an accident. When you give up declaring, when you stop praying aloud for fear of seeming strange, when you swallow what needed to be said, when you lower your tone because they taught you that humility is speaking softly, you shut down your own portal. Because that's exactly what your voice is. A portal. A point of connection between the dense plane where you walk every day and the higher plane where spiritual decisions are truly made. Every word you utter with true intention traverses layers, breaks through veils, travels through dimensions. And there are forces, there are players, there are entities on this invisible board who depend directly on your silence to continue maintaining an advantage over everything concerning your life and your families. That's why I wrote this digital book, God's Chosen One's Manual for Family Protection. This book isn't just reading material, it's a map, a precise map that shows exactly who is playing against your voice, what the rules of this frequency game are that they never told you, and what entities from other dimensions have already revealed about sound, about the power of the word declared with authority, and about the exact moment we are living in. This moment when those who awaken their own frequency will become simply impossible to control. This book was created for those who have already awakened enough to realize that their voice was never weak. It was sabotaged, suppressed, convinced to be silent, and that there is a concrete path to reactivate this miracle frequency and use it to shield everything you love. The link is in the first comment pinned at the top, but I need to warn you honestly, this type of content rarely remains available for long. What is written in these pages challenges narratives that many people have an enormous interest in keeping intact. The narrative that you have no power, that your voice changes absolutely nothing, that praying is just an empty custom. And there have already been real attempts to silence this knowledge before, because a multitude of chosen ones all vibrating at the right frequency at the same time is the most dangerous thing that can exist for those who profit from your disconnection. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now, chosen ones, because you didn't arrive at this video by any accident. Download now and comment below, I am chosen and I will download the digital book. Now that you've taken this first step, I need to show you the deepest layer of this revelation, because understanding that your voice is frequency is only the beginning of everything. What comes now is the mechanism, the how, the hidden gear behind the miracle. And it's here that everything changes. Your voice emits a frequency band. Every voice does without exception. But what almost no one in the world knows is that this frequency can be drastically raised or lowered depending on three factors: your emotional state at the moment of speech, your true intention behind the words, and your conscious connection to the divine. When you speak moved by fear, by scarcity, by old hurt, by resentment you've carried for years, your voice emits a dense, heavy, low, dragging frequency. And the spiritual plane responds precisely to what you emit, not to what you wished you had emitted. You decree illness with your mouth, and illness heeds the call. You declare lack repeatedly, and lack faithfully answers. You complain about your own life aloud every morning, and, without the slightest idea, you are using the most powerful portal you possess to keep active precisely what you most wish to destroy. This is the real reason why so many people pray asking for healing and remain sick, pray asking for prosperity and remain in scarcity. It's not that God isn't listening. It's that the frequency of desperate supplication is not and never was the same frequency as the miracle. The miracle does not vibrate in despair. The miracle does not respond to panic. The miracle vibrates in authority, in certainty, in unshakable peace. There is an abyssal difference, almost unbearably vast, between asking and declaring. He who asks places himself beneath what he desires, like a beggar cowering at the door waiting for a crumb. He who declares stands tall, like a legitimate son who knows his inheritance and knows he has a right to it. And the frequency of declaration is radically different from the frequency of supplication. They are two worlds, two vibrations that don't even touch. When Jesus spoke to the storm in the midst of the raging sea, he did not politely ask the storm to calm down. He commanded with a voice of authority, "Peace, be still." When he resurrected Lazarus from the tomb after 4 days, he did not beg on his knees. He declared with a powerful voice that tore through the air, "Lazarus, come forth." His voice carried intact the frequency of the miracle, the frequency of creation, the same as in the beginning. And this same authority, chosen one, listen closely, is available to you. Not as cheap magic, not as a stage trick, but as a spiritual inheritance that has always been yours by right as a son, and which they have spent your entire life trying to convince you never existed. And when you finally start to truly understand this, certain things from your past history begin to make an almost terrifying sense. Remember how many times people around you tried to silence you. Remember how many times you heard, "Be quiet, don't say that out loud, stop dreaming so big, lower your voice, don't be so dramatic." Remember that strange feeling that every time you decided to declare something grand about your life, someone would appear, out of nowhere, to pull you back down. This isn't a trivial everyday coincidence. This is the visible manifestation on the surface of a spiritual conflict happening in the invisible depths. Because the instant a central piece on the board discovers it has real power in its voice, the entire opposing system immediately mobilizes to silence it again, not through iron chains, but through something much more subtle and effective: shame, disbelief, chronic fatigue, and constant voices around you repeating that you are nothing more than an ordinary person, just like everyone else. But you are not ordinary. If you were ordinary, you wouldn't have come this far, to this exact point in this video, with your heart reacting. If you were ordinary, these words wouldn't be reverberating within your chest now, making your heart beat at a different rhythm, making that dormant part of you, the one that always knew all of this, begin to awaken again. Do you feel it? This subtle vibration rising through your throat at this very moment as you listen. This slight tingling, this warmth in your chest. This is your portal reacting to recognition. This is your ancestral frequency remembering, after so long, who it truly is and what it has always been capable of doing. And I want you to understand something crucial about the moment we are traversing together. It's not just any moment in history. We are in the midst of a transition. A transition of frequencies on a scale that the overwhelming majority of people cannot consciously perceive, but which they feel in their bodies every day. The anxiety that increases for no apparent reason, sleep that escapes in the dead of night, the clear sensation that time has accelerated absurdly, the constant impression that something enormous is about to happen in the world. All of this is part of the vibrational elevation of the very plane we live on. And in this decisive transition, two things happen simultaneously. The first, those who awaken their own voice and learn to consciously vibrate at the frequency of miracle become true channels of transformation, capable of changing not only their own lives, but of protecting, elevating, and shielding entire families, complete lineages. The second, and you need to know this, the forces that directly benefit from human silence brutally intensify their attacks precisely on these people who are beginning to awaken. That's why perhaps you felt life become heavier recently. That's why perhaps obstacles have multiplied in a strange way. It's not punishment, it's not abandonment, it's recognition. You are being noticed on the spiritual plane. And where there is recognition, there is always proportional resistance. That's exactly why I need to reinforce with complete clarity. God's Chosen One's Manual for Family Protection is not a common motivational book, one of those you read and forget. It teaches, step by step, in a practical way, how to reactivate the frequency of your voice that was dormant, how to completely transform the way you pray so that your words stop hitting the ceiling and begin to powerfully cross dimensions, and especially how to shield your home, your children, your marriage, and your entire lineage using sound, vibrated with the authority of a son. It reveals which words weaken your portal and leave it vulnerable, and which words strengthen and seal it. It shows the specific times when the spiritual frequency is most open and receptive, the exact declarations that dissolve oppressions that have been silently passed down from generation to generation within your family, and what these entities from other dimensions have already confessed against their own will about why they so greatly fear the awakened voice of the chosen ones. This knowledge has been carefully gathered for those genuinely ready to go beyond the shallow and repetitive answers the world offers at every turn. The link remains there, pinned at the top of the comments, waiting for you, and the warning remains fully valid. Attempts have been made to erase this type of material before more than once, because teaching a single person to use their own frequency is to forever strip them of their victim status, and awakened people, vibrating high and in unison, cannot be controlled, manipulated, silenced, or domesticated. If you felt even for a second that these words were written specifically for you, comment right now, "I am chosen, and I will download the digital book." This comment is much more than a typed phrase. It is your voice emitting perhaps for the first time in a completely conscious way, the exact frequency of decision. And now that you have truly committed, I will deliver the final blow against everything that once tried to silence you. Pay utmost attention from now on, because what follows is the practical key that definitively separates those who merely hear a beautiful truth from those who truly apply it and transform their own reality. There is an ancient principle that the sages of old called resonance. It works like this. When you emit a frequency constantly and repeatedly, absolutely everything around you that vibrates in that same band begins to respond, to align, to activate. It's exactly like a guitar string that vibrates on its own without anyone touching it when another string tuned to the same note is played nearby. No one touched the second string. It vibrates by pure resonance, by vibrational sympathy. And that is precisely how your world functions on the spiritual plane. What you emit with constancy day after day attracts and activates everything that is vibrating at the same frequency as you. Therefore, when you spend the entire day declaring defeat with your mouth, you enter into deep resonance with defeat, and it rushes to you. When you spend hours immersed in resentment and complaint, you tune into more and more reasons to remain resentful, but the opposite is also an absolute, equally powerful law. When you decide, deliberately and consciously, with your mouth, with your voice, with sound, vibrated in unshakable faith, to declare life, to declare abundant provision, to declare complete healing, to declare protection over every member of your family, you enter into direct resonance with heaven, and heaven, chosen one, vibrates eternally at the frequency of miracle. The overwhelming majority of people use their voice on autopilot. They speak only what they are feeling at the moment, held hostage by circumstances. But the truly awakened chosen one takes the inverse path, against the current. He feels what he decides to speak. He doesn't wait with folded arms for circumstances to improve before changing the tone of his voice. He changes the tone of his voice first, with authority, to force the circumstance to change afterwards. This, chosen one, is spiritual polarity inversion. It is ceasing to be merely a thermometer, which only measures and reports the temperature of the environment, and becoming a thermostat, which defines and imposes the temperature on the entire environment. Your voice is your spiritual thermostat. And from the exact moment you understand this in your soul, you will never again surrender control of your own reality to what is happening out there beyond your reach. Start today, aloud, without fear. Even if your voice trembles at first, even if you feel profoundly strange doing it alone, even if the skeptical and rational part of your mind tries forcefully to convince you that this is nonsense, that it makes no sense whatsoever. Notice carefully, precisely this internal resistance, this discomfort, is living proof that there is something that absolutely does not want you to start doing this. Raise your voice and declare over your life, over your home, over your children, exactly what you wish to see manifest. Don't ask cowering like a beggar at the door. Declare standing tall like an heir who knows his own name. Feel the sound being born deep within your chest, vibrating strongly in your throat, filling every corner of the environment around you. Because every single time you do this consciously, you strengthen your portal, you raise your frequency one step higher, and you become a little more impossible to silence, to bend, to bring down. And understand one thing that changes everything. This doesn't concern just you individually. The frequency you emit contaminates, in the best sense of the word, your entire home and everyone who lives in it. When you start vibrating high and in faith, your children begin to vibrate differently, even without understanding why. Your home slowly transforms into a resonance field of protection and peace. Meaningless arguments begin to diminish. That weight that hung in the air and no one could explain simply dissolves, because the entire environment begins to respond to the dominant frequency of that space, and that dominant frequency, from now on, is yours. You become the tuning point, the antenna that connects your entire family to heaven, and that is why, precisely why, the enemy invests so much energy to keep you in constant silence. Because silencing you isn't silencing one person. It's silencing an entire lineage, present and future. We have arrived together at the point where you must finally make a real decision. You have heard the complete truth about your voice. You have felt in your body the vibration rise through your throat. You have clearly recognized the patterns of your own history within these words. Now only one choice remains before you, and no one can make it for you. To go back to sleep, to let this frequency fall dormant once more, to wait for routine and fatigue to push you back into the comfortable and familiar silence of always, or to act now while the flame is lit. And acting, in this specific case, has a concrete, palpable path within your reach. God's chosen one's manual for family protection is the material that will take absolutely everything you felt awaken here today and transform it into daily practice, into a clear method, into a routine of declaration, into real and continuous protection for you and for every person you love. It is the complete and detailed map of the miracle frequency. How to activate it from scratch, how to sustain it throughout the days, even in difficulties, how to shield your entire family with it, and how to recognize and neutralize on the spot everything that tries to lower it and pull you back down. The link is pinned at the top of the comments, patiently waiting for you. And remember well what I said from the beginning. This content challenges very powerful interests, and the window to access it does not remain open forever. Do not postpone to an uncertain later what your soul has already recognized as absolute truth now at this instant. Download the digital book, dive into it today, without delay, and comment with your voice transformed into written word. I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. Because the truth, chosen one, is simple, direct, and definitive, the miracle was never far from you. It was never in another place, in another person, in another time. It was merely trapped, contained, dammed up within a frequency you had not yet learned to consciously emit. And now you know, now you remember who you always were. Now the string within you is ready to vibrate, so raise your voice, raise it high, without fear, without shame, without asking permission. The entire heaven is in tune, in silence, waiting for the only sound that can move everything. Your voice finally declaring what has always been yours by right.